I don't want anything. I already own you. We want you to stop bombing the Middle East. Imagine picking up your phone on a crisp October day back in 2015 and hearing a teenager deliver that chilling message directly to you. Now imagine you are John Brennan and you are the director of the CIA. Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're unpacking a modern, high-stakes heist story. But listen, there are no bank vaults or getaway cars here. Instead, this is the absolutely wild story of how a few bored teenagers, literally just sitting in their bedrooms, managed to completely compromise the highest levels of the United States intelligence state. Let's look at exactly how they pulled the whole shebang off.
Section 1. The Call to the CIA.
So, who exactly was on the other end of that terrifying prank call? Well, the voice belonged to a kid going by the alias Crackas. He was a 15-year-old from the UK who loved smoking weed and just so happened to be the leader of a hacking group calling themselves Crackers with Attitude. Now, this wasn't just some random act of chaos for the fun of it. Crackas was deeply furious about perceived corruption and U.S. involvement in the Middle East, specifically the Israel-Palestine conflict and the situation in Gaza. He wanted to use his digital skills to make a highly political statement.
Section 2. A Taste of Power. To really understand how they pulled this off, we actually need to flash back a bit to 2008 and meet another teenager. He went by the name Default. Default was a pretty typical American kid in Virginia who frequently clashed with his government worker father. He got his start in a super mundane way, honestly, simply by cheating in video games. But look at how rapidly he escalated his skills. Soon enough, he was tapping into a massive botnet controlled by a hacker offshoot group called AnonSec. From there, he gained access to a Canadian university's server, found a delete all button, and literally wiped out $9.4 million in student debt. Next, motivated by animal rights, he helped shut down official Danish government websites to protest the country's bestiality laws. So he moved straight from video game cheats into these really aggressive acts of digital vigilantism.
Section 3. The Snowden Effect.
Right, so while these teenagers were out there testing the limits of their digital power, a pivotal moment in May 2013 shifted their focus entirely toward the US government. You probably remember this. A 29-year-old intelligence contractor named Edward Snowden blew the whistle, leaking massive secrets about global surveillance. He basically revealed the US government's capability for warrantless spying on virtually anyone with a computer right before fleeing to Hong Kong. This sparked a massive global debate about privacy. And for young hackers like Default, it was a profound inspiration. He didn't want to just sit around. He wanted to make intelligence officials feel exactly what it's like to be spied upon.
And the government's response? It really only added fuel to the fire. When the Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, testified to Congress, he stated, "What we do not do is spy unlawfully on Americans." Well, the teenagers were infuriated by this. In retaliation, Crackas doxed Clapper, hacked his email, and hilariously rerouted his home phone calls directly to the Free Palestine movement. This highly publicized stunt caught Default's attention for sure, and the two decided to join forces.
Section 4. Hacking the intelligence directors. Okay, let's dive into this, because this is where it gets crazy. Now teamed up, Default and Crackas set their sights on their biggest target yet, CIA Director John Brennan. You might think hacking the head of the CIA requires some kind of advanced, military-grade code, right? Nope. Instead, it was shockingly simple social engineering. Step 1, Crackas literally just found Brennan's Verizon number publicly online. Step 2, he called Verizon, posing as an on-site technician who needed some help. Step 3, when they asked him for an employee code, he just made a fake one up on the spot, and somehow it worked. Step 4, with that access, he reset Brennan's AOL password. When they were asked later in an interview how hard this was on a scale of 1 to 10, the hackers gave it a 1.
But the fallout from this was anything but a 1. They leaked highly sensitive, classified documents directly to WikiLeaks. We're talking about Brennan's 47-page SF-86 security clearance application that contained his personal criminal history and psychological records. They also uncovered Bush-era recommendations for Middle East presidential operations and congressional suggestions on interrogation, also known as torture methods. This breach absolutely humiliated the agency. It forced operatives into hiding for their own safety, and it cost a staggering $1.5 million in damages.
And the crazy part? They didn't stop at Brennan. They wreaked havoc through one powerful institution after another, compromising a truly staggering scale of data. They exposed the personal information of 9,000 Department of Justice officials, 20,000 FBI agents, and even accessed the Joint Automated Booking System, pulling the records of U.S. prisoners. I mean, they had essentially laid bare the entire security apparatus.
Section 5. The FBI knocks.
Of course, you can only poke the bear for so long before it wakes up, and the sheer irony of how they were caught is just astounding. See, Default was famously paranoid. He was out there using a satellite dish to connect to a Dairy Queen Wi-Fi half a mile away just to stay untraceable. That is some extreme operational security, yet it was completely ruined by one drunken boast. While drinking and playing on Xbox Live with a friend, the news of the CIA hack came on and Default just casually bragged, "Yeah, that was us." Well, that friend ultimately turned him in, leading a heavily armed FBI raid right to Default's bedroom door.
So the crucial point here is the stark contrast in the vastly different legal consequences the two hackers faced, based entirely on their age and location. Crackas, being a UK citizen and underage at 15, was sentenced to 2 years in a juvenile detention center. Default, on the other hand, was a US citizen and legally an adult, so his sentence was severe: 5 years in federal prison, periods of solitary confinement, and he was ordered to pay $145,000 in restitution.
Section 6. The surveillance state today.
So the teenagers obviously paid a really steep price, but what about the issues they were actually protesting? The reality is the government surveillance issues they were so angry about are still highly relevant today. In December 2023, the Biden administration renewed a highly controversial surveillance program. This essentially allows the administration to continue warrantless spying globally, and yes, that includes the electronic communications of US citizens. It maintains this vast database of personal data that's really only supposed to be accessed for legitimate intelligence operations.
But take a look at that staggering number, 278,000. To put that into perspective, that is the number of times a U.S. court ruling in 2023 found that the FBI had misused this exact surveillance database. 278,000 unlawful searches.
And you might be wondering, who exactly was being searched? Well, this unlawful surveillance targeted incredibly diverse political groups between 2016 and 2020. This impartially included donors to various congressional candidates, suspected January 6th rioters, and Black Lives Matter protesters. So, as you can see, the tools of surveillance have been used across the entire political spectrum, completely bypassing the need for warrants. Which leaves us looking at everything we've unpacked today from these documents and court rulings, and it really forces us to ask one very provocative final question. Are they surveilling us?